My name's Keith. I'm a meditation teacher, as you may have guessed, and we've been doing these Wednesday sessions as an intro, a broad palette of what meditation is and what it can do for us. There's a lot you can do with it, which is fantastic. So we try to cover a lot of different topics. So the itinerary for today, hey John, the itinerary for today is going to be, we'll introduce meditation in general for people who are new, right? I'll talk about what it is, why it works, how we do it. Then we're going to do a brief breathing meditation, which is sort of like an entry point into meditation. It's really good for relaxing. So if you come here to relax, that's what you're looking for. And then after we do that, and we're feeling a little more relaxed, we're going to talk about our topic for today. We do a new topic each week. And today's topic is setting an intention for the day, right? So we're going to talk about what does that mean? We hear that a lot, right? So what does that mean? Why is it important? And how do we actually go about doing that? How do we actually go about incorporating that into our day, right? And then we'll do a little meditation specifically on intention to kind of deepen our understanding of what we've talked about. Sound good? All right. So, meditation is familiarization. It is a learning tool, actually. It's a form of concentration that allows you to become really familiar with something, right? I know it sounds a little weird, right? But it's not just about relaxing, right? That's part of it, relaxing our mind, but it's also using that relaxed mind to investigate things and learn about ourselves and maybe some problems that we're having. So there's a lot you can get from it. Hey, Crystal. No need to apologize. Cardio is very important. I'm glad you're here. So that's kind of, that's really what meditation is, right? It's not just about like zoning out. That's really not what it is. It's kind of like zoning in. I know it's a little cliche to say, but that's really what it is. But first, to be able to investigate something, and learn about it in a productive way, hey, Chris, we have to relax our mind first, because our mind's not normally very relaxed. I don't know if you've noticed, but our mind is really busy. Even when we think our mind is not busy, it's actually still busy. So that's our first goal, is to relax our mind. That way we can learn easier. You ever notice that it's tough to accomplish pretty much anything when your mind's in a frenzy, right? Things don't really go that well. So like normally our mind is like at its default state, our mind is still, right? It's very peaceful, very calm. It's like a still lake. But all of the distractions and the thoughts that are coming in throughout the day, these are like kind of raindrops on the lake, so to speak, right? And what happens when it starts to rain on the lake? You can't see the reflection, right? It becomes impossible to accurately describe what the reflection is. And that's kind of how our mind is on a daily basis. It's normally this still lake, and we can kind of see things clearly and objectively, but all the bombardment of thoughts and worries and anxieties and distractions that are coming at us constantly throughout the day make it very hard to maintain that level of calm, maintain that level of peace, right? Oh, first timer, welcome. So this is our first goal. Our first goal is to clear away some of those raindrops, right? So we can see the reflection more clearly, so we can investigate, right? So in order to do this, in order to relax through meditation, we do something called single-pointed concentration, right? I know you think concentration is not very relaxing, but actually it is if you do it like properly, right? It's sort of like being in the zone, right? You ever been in the zone? You know what that means? It's super cliche again, but like at work or something, or working out, right? You're so focused that the distractions around you, they're not really there anymore. They're not bothering you as much, right? You don't hear your name being called, all this kind of stuff, right? So we're going to intentionally do that through what's called single-pointed concentration. We're going to focus so exclusively on something that all the other things are going to start to fade away into the background, so to speak, right? The thing we're going to focus on is our breath. This is very common to do in meditation, breathing meditation. And for good reason. The main reason is you always have your breath with you, which is a very important part of meditation, to begin to realize that you do not need specific conditions or to be in this perfectly quiet place, Zen garden kind of, to meditate and meditate well. You have everything you need. You have your breath, right? So that's why we focus on our breathing. It's a really good tool to have. So from an instructional standpoint, breathing meditation is quite simple, right? You're going to focus on your breath. You follow along with what I'm saying. Focus on your breath. And then when you realize that you're not, you're like, oh, I'm not. And I'm going to bring my attention back to focusing on my breath. And that's it. That's the process of breathing meditation. And you might find it challenging at first, but over time it becomes easier. And you might find yourself relaxing a little bit because you're so focused on your breath. There's no room in your mind for your worries, for your distractions. Does that make sense? We're going to do a breathing meditation right now, after I drink a sip of water. By the way, if you have any questions at any time, please ask. You can ask in the chat. That's the quickest way to get it answered. But if you're not comfortable doing so, totally fine. You can always email me after. I've had plenty of people do that. My email is keith@meditationbreaks.com. So feel free to ask me any questions. But don't be afraid to ask. I will stop what I'm doing unless my eyes are closed meditating to answer your questions. That's kind of the beauty of this format. You get to have like a real-time interaction and discussion about, am I doing this right? What does this mean? That kind of thing. Okay, we're going to do a breathing meditation. All right, so sit comfortably. That's number one. Be comfortable. If you're laying down, cool. You can lay down. It's fine. If you're sitting, that's fine too. You don't really have to change anything. All right, so just be comfortable. We want to be physically comfortable so we can then become mentally comfortable, so to speak, right? And try to be kind of sit with a little bit of an alert posture, right? You don't want to kind of fall asleep, even though sometimes that happens. Not the worst thing in the world. And close your eyes and follow along with what I'm saying. I'm going to do about 5-minute breathing meditation, okay? So whenever we start a meditation, the first thing we want to do is check in with ourselves. How are you doing right now? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you anxious, excited, relaxed? Whatever it is, it does not matter. All that matters is you take note of it. You notice how you're feeling. This is called mindfulness. Being aware of your thoughts, what your mind is doing moment to moment. So just check in. And having checked in with ourselves, we can turn our full attention to our breathing. We breathe in and out of our nose very gently, very naturally. We do not need to take big, deep breaths or forcefully exhale. Just breathe normally, in and out. See if you can follow your full in-breath and your full out-breath. And at some point, you might find that your mind is no longer focused on your breathing. It's gone off to think about something else, maybe something that's happened earlier, something you have to do later. Whenever you notice that, it's perfectly fine. Just gently guide it back. Guide your attention back to your breath, to enjoying your full breath in and enjoying your full breath out. As you start to relax, you might begin to notice some sensations about breathing that you hadn't noticed before. How the air feels cool as you breathe in, and how it feels warm as you breathe out. Allow yourself to relax into your breath. Keep bringing your attention back to your breathing as many times as necessary. This is meditation. You are meditating. You are training your mind to relax, to be peaceful, and you're doing it all on your own. How wonderful. How wonderful that you can relax even just a little bit with nothing other than your breath. So just enjoy sitting here, enjoy breathing for a little while longer. Okay, and when you're ready, you can relax and open up your eyes. Return to the YouTube. How'd that go? First timers, how'd that go? I always love hearing from first timers how that went. People have very different experiences with it. Some people find it easy. Some people find it hard. I found it very hard. We're just not used to it. Honestly, that's what it is. We're not used to focusing on one thing. Very relaxing. I'm glad to hear that. We're taught to multitask, right? If you're not multitasking, you're not doing enough. That's kind of what we're taught. And it's true. You might accomplish some tasks or little worldly tasks, but multitasking is not a very good method of relaxing, is it? You don't ever find yourself super relaxed multitasking, right? Because you're kind of voluntarily bouncing your mind around, right? So we're just not used to it. So it takes time. It takes practice. It's like anything else. We're training our mind just like we would train in anything else. To be an artist, to drive, to anything. It's the exact same concept. Today it was hard due to a lot of my to-do list. Yep, absolutely. That was awesome. Very relaxing. Thank you. Thanks. I'm glad you found it helpful. But yeah, like sometimes it's going to be challenging, and sometimes it's going to flow, right? That's kind of how it is. But important to realize that in both of those scenarios, you're meditating, you're practicing, right? Same thing as you're like running a race, right? You're not always gonna get your personal best, but you're training, you're improving, you're working towards your goal. So even if it's difficult, congratulations for doing it, because that's what's really important. I usually meditate with music, but meditating in silence with just the sound of one voice is helping me focus more on my breath. Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, actually, because a lot of people do use music. And look, whatever's going to get you to start meditating regularly, do it. If it's music, do it. Absolutely. But one of the things we have to be careful of if we're using music or even really guided meditation, like constantly, we could get into the habit of thinking we need that to meditate. Does that make sense? So like part of meditation is realizing we don't need that to meditate. We don't need music. We don't need silence. We don't need to be in a comfortable chair. We can do it independent of our external conditions. So use music, do whatever you want, but it is good to also practice without it. to kind of remind yourself that you can do this without. Questions from the audience. How do you calm yourself down enough to make your brain not think about everything else that's going on in your life? So if you're finding yourself with an extremely busy mind, the best thing you can do is give your mind a job while meditating. And we do this sometimes with counting meditation, right? So instead of just focusing on your breath in and out, we're going to focus in and out, and we're going to say in our head, 1, right? And then we're going to focus in and out, 2, right? And we're going to see how high we can count before we kind of lose count, forget what we're doing. And then we'll start over at 1. And the reason why this is helpful is because our mind is not used to kind of just chilling out. It's used to having a job. And so sometimes giving it a job like that can help us relax. So if you have a very busy mind, the counting meditation I find really helpful. If you have like anxiety problems, that's how I got into meditation, anxiety. Counting meditation is really good for relaxing. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, so I'm glad everyone enjoyed that. We're counting is the only thing that keeps my mind focused. I've counted to 60 so far. Yeah. Look, some people really, really jive with the counting. I'm one of them. Okay. So if that's your thing, then do it. Whatever's going to get you to focus. Sometimes we do visualizations here too that help. Everyone's a different learner. It's, auditory learner, visual learner, all that. Kyla, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Okay. If you have any more questions, keep asking. It's totally fine. But I'm going to move on just for the sake of time. Okay. So today we're talking about intention, setting an intention, right? So when I was thinking about how am I going to describe intention, I was like, okay, well, let me think about how I use that word regularly. And what I realized is I don't use that word regularly at all, which I thought was kind of interesting. Right? In fact, the time that I found myself using the word intention was almost exclusively reserved for when I had upset somebody or done something that kind of upset somebody, and I was like, oh, sorry, I'm not in my mic. Sorry, that wasn't my intention. That wasn't my intention, right? Which is interesting. We're focusing on what our intention isn't, right? But what was my intention? Was it to be kind to them, to be understanding, or maybe it was to prove my point to them, right? You ever do that? So currently, if we think about it, we kind of use the word intention as a whoops. Oh, sorry. It's almost defensive, a defensive reaction. And that's exactly what it is. This is not intention. This is a reaction to something, right? Intention is a solid, unwavering mental action, a mental commitment to something based on a firm understanding of it and the benefits of it. I like to think of it as an immovable wish, which sounds really cool, but is quite nebulous. An immovable wish. To understand what intention is at its core, we have to first kind of understand what the difference between a mental action and a physical action is. So let's take the example of giving money to somebody who needs it. Maybe you pass somebody on the street who's homeless and you give them money, right? Giving the money is a physical action, right? We're taking money and we're handing it to them. It's a physical action, right? But prior to us giving money to this individual, there necessarily was a mental action in your mind that said, give, right? So every action that we do, every physical action, from waving, from pushing up your glasses, to running, to talking, all of it, all of these physical actions, they necessarily are preceded by a mental action telling you to do it. It's interesting. We don't think about that, right? We don't really pay attention. We just think we're doing stuff. But if there was no mental action prior, we'd just be like this. We wouldn't do anything. We need our mind, right? We need our mind. Fernando, sorry, I don't speak Spanish, so unfortunately, I wish I did. Now that's something that I should work on. But I don't know. Maybe somebody here does. I think could help you. So, okay, cool. Were you checking that if I did? I don't, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're here. So that's what a mental action is. And for our purposes, we can think of mental actions and intentions in a similar way. They're not exactly the same, but for our purpose, we can think of them that way, right? Now, we've all seen times where we may do a positive physical action, but our mental action, the motivations are not so great. All right. So let's take the same scenario, right? Let's say we're walking down the street with our boss, right? And we come across somebody who is homeless, and we think, I should give them money. But then also in the back of our head, we're like, that might look pretty good in front of my boss, right? So now what's happening, right? We're like, our intentions, our motivations for our mental action is a little different than just purely helping this person, right? It's a little boosting our reputation, right? The same thing with thank yous. It's an interesting one, right? So sometimes we'll do something nice for somebody and they won't thank us, and then we'll be like, couldn't even say thank you, right? So like there's almost in the back of our head an expectation that if we do this for them, we're going to be appreciated, we're going to be thanked, right? And so the kind of mental action is slightly a little tarnished from what the physical action is. You might be thinking, well, what does it matter? This person's getting money anyway, or I did the thing. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to train our mind to naturally want to be more patient, more compassionate, to help others, right? To be kind. And this comes through a true desire to do it, right? We're not gonna fool our mind if we don't really intend to help somebody, right? If our intention is to boost our reputation by doing something instead of helping them, we're not going to really develop in the same way that we want to be kinder people. So this is why intention is so important, right? Setting an intention is so important because intention helps push our actions towards being positive, right? It's sort of like a compass. Have you ever used a compass? I don't think I have, actually, now that I think about it. But I know how compasses work. Hey, Vixen, what's going on? Glad you're here. I know how compasses work, right? Compasses don't give you the exact route, but they do give you a general direction, right? A reminder of where you should be going. So setting an intention is kind of like a compass in that it gives us a general direction of where we want our life to go, where we want to push towards in terms of being more positive, more kind. Right? So let's say we set an intention to be more patient with others. That's a good one, right? And then we get angry with somebody at work. That happens often. So if we have a firm intention to be patient, right? We're committed to it. It's an immovable wish to be more patient. It will be easier for us to get back on track. It'll be easier for us to remember why we're doing this, why we're trying to be more patient. It'll help us know how to react to different scenarios. Rob, how do you find your initial calibration for this intention compass? We are going to talk about that, Rob. We'll get to that in just a second, really. So setting an intention ultimately prepares us for the day. It prepares us for the problems that we may come across. We can recover from uncertainty. We had an entire class on uncertainty last week. I think it was last week, right? So if we have a firm intention, then when things come that might get in the way of that, we will be able to overcome them and remember why we're doing this. Does that make sense so far? So the next is like, how do we do this? This all sounds great. How do we do it? Like Rob asked, how do we set an intention? How do we find one? What do we do? Right? There's all these questions. There's so many things we can do. All right. And ultimately, this is going to feel forced at first. I'm just gonna tell you, it's going to feel forced because we're not used to doing this. Just like we're not used to sitting and quietly and focusing only on our breath, right? We're not used to doing this. We're not used to setting an intention, right? So we're gonna have to force ourselves to do it a little bit at first, until we see the benefits. Once you see the benefit of something, you start to want to do it more naturally, want to put effort towards it more naturally. Do you find that? Like if you're trying to start a workout regime, at first it's like, oh, right. But then you say, I feel good when I do this, right? So it becomes easier to get into that, right? We see the benefits of it. So we got to see the benefits of setting an intention. Then it'll come a little easier to us. David Goggins always says, your mind has a tactical advantage over you. Very cool quote. Our mind is super powerful. And like that goes back to really all of our physical actions are mental actions realized. So if our mental actions are like kind of negative, then a lot of our physical actions are going to be negative too. Seeing the benefits of my workout puts the joy in each workout. Exactly. And it's the same thing with meditation, training our mind. You're training your body with like your workouts with cardio, and we're training our mind. And once you see the benefits, you naturally want to do it, right? You naturally want to engage in these things. So when we see the benefits of helping other people or being kinder, we'll naturally want to be kinder. We'll naturally want to help other people, right? So how do we set an intention? Step one is we need to decide what our intention is, which is kind of Rob's question, right? And this can be challenging, because there's a lot that we can do. There's a lot that we probably want to change about ourselves, to improve upon. The first tip I would give you is to think about why you're here. Not like, why am I here on earth? Like, why did you sign up for this class, right? Why do you come back? What are you hoping to get out of this? What are you getting out of this class? Getting out of like meditation? It's a good indication of what you are trying to maybe improve about yourself. For me, it was anxiety. I got into meditation because of like very crippling anxiety, right? And so my intention was to become less anxious, right? That was the intention that I formed. So I can't tell you what you want to like use as your intention. You gotta kind of investigate that for yourself. But I would shoot for like a small project. All right? You don't have to have some like grandiose, I'm going to be kind to everybody kind of thing. Like, let's shoot small, because we want to see some wins. We want to get some wins, right? So we can start to see the benefits and then take on bigger projects. So maybe it's like, I intend to not worry about work when I first wake up in the morning. Like something is like simple like that. And at first it's probably going to be really hard. You're probably going to worry about work when you wake up, but we're going to remind ourselves to do it. We're going to try to remind ourselves to do that, to stay true to our intention. I would love to not have to scratch every itch I have. Wow, that's really interesting, because I get anxious about itching. That's a good one for you. Yeah. Anything, right? Just the idea of getting used to setting an intention and keeping it is really good practice, right? So small projects, think about it. And then once we kind of figure out what we're going to do, I'm going to use the idea of being more patient here, just as an example. Kind of step two is we have to meditate on it a little bit. And this is to see the benefits of it, right? If we don't really believe that being more patient is going to be beneficial to us or other people or improve our life, we're not going to do it, right? We're not going to keep that promise to ourselves. We're not going to be true to our intention, right? So we have to kind of meditate on this. It's actually called contemplation. We're going to do one. So don't worry. This is like, oh, it's too much. I'm going to lead a contemplation on this. So you can kind of get an idea of how you might ruminate on, like positive rumination on the benefits of being more patient or being less anxious or something like that, right? So we can think about like, why would I want to do this? What would happen if I'm not, right? What would my life be like if I don't do this, right? And then ultimately where we want to end up with this step is we want to kind of widen our worldview a little bit and do this for others, not just ourselves, right? We don't just want to like be less anxious to like be less anxious. We want to be less anxious or be more patient so that way we can help other people easier. We can pay attention. Like, you're anxious. Like I can't pay attention to your problems, right? Well, maybe we now can pay attention to other people's problems and help them, right? So we just want to kind of make this a little wider than ourselves. And the reason is that helps us get out of our own head sometimes. That was some good advice I got from a psychologist that I saw. It's like, if you are finding yourself in your own head being anxious, do something for somebody else, right? Really good advice. At the time, I was like, this is kind of weird. I don't think that works. I think it does work. Okay, so we're going to decide what our intention is. And, it doesn't have, look, you can change, and then we're going to kind of meditate on it. We're going to think about it. We're going to investigate it. Why should I be doing this? And then we got to develop mindfulness. We talked a little bit about this in the beginning. Mindfulness, if intention is our compass, right? Mindfulness is kind of our alarm to look at the compass, right? If we have a compass, we're lost, but we never look at the compass, we're not going to get unlost. We're going to continue to be lost, right? So mindfulness is noticing what our mind is doing moment to moment. So if we have good mindfulness, we can check in with ourselves often, being like, am I being more patient? Am I being true to my intention? Am I whatever it is? And if we're not, then we can remind ourselves of the benefits of it, right? Step 2, remind ourselves of the benefits of it and kind of get back on track. So mindfulness really goes hand in hand with intention, right? It's a check. It's an alarm to make sure that we are on track. You can actually set an alarm, right, to check in with yourself. It's a good option at first because we're not used to checking in with ourselves. So set an alarm on your phone to check in, and then be like, okay, how am I feeling right now? Am I being true to what I set out to do, to my intention? Do intentions change daily, or do you stay with the same intention until you feel comfortable with where you are in that intention? It's actually a really good question. With even meditation in general, not just intention, I do recommend picking something that you're kind of comfortable with, that seems achievable, and sticking with it for a little while, right? This Wednesday class is sort of like the cookbook, I say, of meditation, right? But you got to learn a recipe before you master the whole cookbook. So we want to kind of pick something and work with it a little bit. And look, if after a while you're like, I'm not really connecting with this, then we can move on, to something else, see if you connect with that a little bit more. But we got to give it some time because this is all very new. And anytime you're learning something new, it takes time. So I would try to stick with something. And that's why it's important to pick something that you think is achievable. Why would anyone have a negative intention? Well, because we are imperfect, right? Ultimately, all of our negative intentions come from caring more about ourselves than other people, right? So that scenario of kind of maybe giving with the purpose of boosting our reputation, right? My reputation is pretty important. I want to boost that. Like, that seems to be more important than genuinely helping somebody else. And look, everyone goes through this. There's really nobody that doesn't even occasionally have negative intentions, even if it's like subconsciously. Like, sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it, like trying to convince somebody that we're right, Kind of like a negative intention, really. Like, you're wrong, I'm right. We don't even realize we're doing it, right? And then maybe later on we do and we feel regret, right? So why is because we're human is really the question. But we're trying to work towards moving it more in the direction of we're not doing that as often as we currently are, right? So these kind of 3 steps, right? Deciding on our intention, meditating on it, to find the benefits, and using mindfulness to check in with ourselves. Over time, this is going to become a part of us, right? Our intention, our immovable wish that we have is going to become a part of us, right? And so it will be easier to stay true to it. We won't have to check in as much. We'll just kind of naturally start to do it. That's when we're going to naturally start to see change in ourselves, to be kinder, to be more helpful, to be more patient, right? With others, stuff like that. Does that make sense? Sound cool? Who wouldn't want to do that, right? Okay. Good questions today. Everyone's bringing the A game. Okay, so we're going to do a meditation. Now, I was talking a little bit about this earlier. Meditation isn't just about relaxing, it's about relaxing and then using that relaxed mind purposefully, right? So today, our purpose is to kind of investigate the importance of intention. Okay? Does that sound good? So just follow along with what I'm saying. It's literally what we did before, but there's going to be a little bit of added on to the end, so to speak. And I keep saying so to speak like a million times today. I don't know why. So just follow along with what I'm saying, and you'll get an idea of maybe how you can do this on your own. Okay? Any other questions before I get started? Because unfortunately, I cannot see the questions with my eyes closed. If not, we will proceed, and I'll answer your questions afterwards. Okay, so again, we're going to sit comfortably, right? Relaxed if you're laying down, cool. Sitting, cool. We're going to do a short breathing meditation again to kind of get back into the relaxed groove, and then we're going to transition that into a little bit of a contemplation. Okay, so you can close your eyes. Let's check in with ourselves again. How are you feeling now? Different than before? Just notice. Whatever it is, just notice. We're training in mindfulness. Noticing what our mind is doing moment to moment. That way we can skillfully react. Having checked in with ourselves, we can once again turn our attention to our breathing. In and out of our nose. Very gently, very naturally. In and out. Try to follow your full in-breath and your full out-breath as many times as you can. Allow yourself to relax. At some point, your mind may drift. This is very natural for us right now. If you find that your mind is no longer focused on your breathing, just gently guide it back. Guide your attention back to focusing on your full breath in and your full breath out. To enjoying your full breath in and your full breath out. Keep bringing your attention back as many times as necessary. This is meditation. You are a meditator. You are training your mind to relax. All on your own. By just focusing on your breathing. How wonderful. How wonderful that you've taken time out of your day to train in being kinder, calmer. Just focus on your breath for a little while longer. So having relaxed our mind, even just a little bit, we can use this calm, relaxed mind productively. We can use it to investigate, to learn. Today, we're going to investigate the importance of setting an intention. So right now, in your mind, to the best of your ability, make a promise to yourself that for the next 5 minutes, you are going to firmly focus on the importance of patience. Our intention for this meditation is to recognize the benefits of being patient. Just make a promise to yourself to do that. An immovable wish. So if our intention is to be more patient, we have to recognize the benefits of doing so. The opposite of patience is anger. And when we are angry, we'll often say things that we do not mean. Maybe we hurt somebody's feelings that we care deeply about. When we're angry, we're not ourselves. We're not in control, fully in control. Our mind has kind of run wild, and we're along for the ride. Being patient is the antidote to anger. If we're patient, we'll be able to react to anything in a way that is productive, to skillfully react in a way that is true to ourselves, a true representation of who we are. Kind, gentle, compassionate, understanding. That is who we are. Just take some time here, right now, to think about that. To think about, would you rather be angry or patient? Which makes you feel better? Which allows you to help? Just sit with that. You are familiarizing your mind with the benefits of patience. With the benefits of setting an intention to be patient throughout the day. Just let that sink in for a little while longer. Allow yourself to start to identify with being patient, being calm, being relaxed, looking at things objectively with compassion. That is who you are. Okay, very good. When you're ready, you can relax, open the eyeballs. How'd that go? So if you're new, this is kind of what meditation is. It's 2 steps, right? We relax and then we think about something. That's pretty much what meditation is. Now, what we think about, there's an exorbitant, a lot. There's a lot of different things we can think about, right? We can contemplate anxiety. We can contemplate gratitude. We can contemplate how to be productive, how to motivate ourselves. Like, we kind of have this internal Google in us that we just don't really access very often because our mind is totally distracted and all over the place. So that's really what meditation does, is it kind of gives us access to answer some of our own questions, right? So in this one, our focus was on kind of like, I wanted to just get you used to setting an intention in the beginning, right? So in the beginning, where we kind of just developed this wish, even if it's only temporary for this meditation, like this immovable wish to recognize the importance of patience, right? And then we did a little bit of thinking about patience, right? With this intention in our mind, right? Is being patient beneficial, right? What would happen if I'm not, right? These are the kind of things that we talked about earlier. So by doing this, by contemplating on some of these things, we start to realize the benefits of them. And when we realize the benefits of something, we will want to do it. Our intention will be realized. Does that make sense? I hope so. Intentions is interesting, right? We're not used to setting it. We're used to kind of just like going through life, right? We don't really usually have deliberate intentions a lot of the time, at least to our knowledge, right? Like subconsciously we might be like, I'm intending to do this, but like sometimes we feel like we're just kind of going through. So setting an intention might seem hard at first, but it can be really powerful. Because, like I said, it is like a compass. It's a reminder of what we want to do and who we want to be. Why is it so easy to let life lead you instead of the things you intend to do? Wow. Ultimately, because we are not good at like taking control of our mind, really. We kind of just like let our mind roll, really. Like, and that's where all the distractions come in. That's like multitasking can kind of like encourage that. We're not used to like using the idea of concentration, focusing on something to like motivate us. It's just a lack of familiarity, really. It's so easy to let life lead you because we're so used to letting life lead us, right? It's so easy for us to get angry because we're so used to getting angry, right? It's so easy for us to become anxious when we encounter that trigger that makes us anxious because we're so used to it. Every time we think about that thing, we get anxious, right? We're training our mind to do that. And so when we try to do the opposite, it's hard because we're not used to it. But the beauty of this is that can be reversed, right? We can, instead of like if we're more familiar with like anger or something, we can move our mind to be more familiar with patience. And over time, our mind will naturally gravitate towards patience versus anger. And we might find ourselves finding it hard to get angry. The opposite. It's all about training. It's just familiarity. That's all meditation is. Meditation is literally just a way to familiarize yourself with something. So for you, if you're finding that life is just kind of leading you and you're lacking an intention, like you're lacking something like to drive you, then this is a really good first step to think about what it is you want to be, like how you want to be, right? And what are the benefits of that? And then what can you do to remind yourself of those benefits throughout the day? And over time, it'll get easier. I hope. Any other questions? It's been a fun session. They all are. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. I'll stick around as long as you have them. But if not, if you've enjoyed this, if you found it thought-provoking or kind of interesting or new and you'd like to then maybe pursue it a little bit, come back next week. We always do a new topic. I forget what I was going to do next week. Sometimes I know and sometimes I don't. My hands need to be busy. I go mindless when I crochet. Nancy, so this is a really great realization for you, right? When you crochet, right, all those distractions, right, they kind of fade into the background, don't they, right? Like maybe you don't hear the TV on, or like, you're not in tune to all the distractions, right? You're using the act of crocheting as meditation, which is great. And so now something you can do to incorporate intention is the next time you crochet, don't just crochet to crochet. You'll be like, I'm going to crochet to practice calming myself, to practice focusing on one thing. That is my intention. We're bringing a positive intention into anything we do. You can bring a positive intention into anything you do. Play video games, doing the laundry, anything. You just have to make that immovable wish. So that would be a good one for you, I think. Thank you for the comment. That was great. So if you have enjoyed this, come back, bring a friend. That's always fun. Right? Great for me. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's great too. Great for me. Also great for you. You get reminded of when I'm going live. Our lives are very busy. We need reminders of things. So that's a good one. And if you, see you, Vixen. Thanks for stopping by. If you are really interested in this, I do private instruction, which is great because we can focus on exactly what you might want to work on, as opposed to this kind of broad strokes that we do here. I also do corporate events, right? If you think this would be a cool thing for at work to introduce, you'll be the cool meditation person. I do that. So there's a lot of options to you to kind of pursue this. Or if you want to just kind of keep dipping your toes in, come back on Wednesday. So more information about like the private lessons and stuff like that and corporate can be found on my website. I'll put that here. I think this is the first time I've ever linked that in like 3 months. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks. I appreciate that. And ultimately, thank you for being here, right? Because we all have very busy lives and I couldn't do this without you guys. And I think it's really cool that you're taking an hour out of your busy life to try something new, to try to improve, right? We're always trying to improve. I think that's a really virtuous thing to do. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for being here. And I hope you come back. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And I hope you come back. And if you have any questions beyond this that you think of later, just email me. My email's all over my website there. Thank you. I regret being late. My cat had a moment. Feeling at peace now until next week. It's totally fine. No worries about being late. The videos are available. You can watch them. I hope your cat's okay. Martha, thank you. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you for coming. It really means a lot to me that you guys are here. So have a great week. Set an intention. This is the first time I linked that. Gosh, I know. I'm so bad. Try to think about setting an intention. Even something small, right? Even something small. I am not going to worry about my to-do list as much. Maybe that's a good one, right? Set a small intention. See if you can keep it. And we'll check back in next week. Okay? Have a good one.